I never thought a simple birthday dinner would turn my life upside down. Chapter 17. Where does she hide those legs? Since the restaurant was in downtown, it only took around 10 minutes to get there. While Alex sang his heart out to the open sky, my mind kept wandering back to him calling me beautiful. I couldn't help but smiling. I hadn't felt this blissful feeling in a long time. Although my inner wolf didn't like it all that another male aside from my mate made me blush, I didn't care. It was my birthday. And ultimately, it would be me who'd get to decide who would make me happy, not some stupid fate that I was burdened to. I didn't know what the restaurant would look like, but when Alex pulled up to a beautiful glass building with crystal chandeliers draped on high ceilings that made the snow look dull, and glistening marble floors that outshone the moon, I couldn't help but stare in awe. Alex had to drag me out of the car as I kept gaping at the fancy restaurant. This went way beyond my thoughts of what it would be like. Didn't expect this from downtown. Did you? Alex asked. I shook my head and clutched onto his hand as he helped me over the snow-covered curb. As much as I wished that he held onto my hand as a romantic gesture, it was more so that I wouldn't slip and die on the ice in my heels. Alex smirked as I gripped onto his arm for my dear life, and he was trying to keep his laugh in. Fortunately, he remembered his manners and helped me to the front entrance gracefully. As he held open the door, a gust of warm welcoming air hugged me. As I finally got to stare at the bright lighting and smell the fresh crisp air, I felt nothing less than a princess. Miss Evans, right this way please. A man with a breathy voice called out beside me. I turned around and saw a plump, stout man, with a shiny bald head and sleek whiskers above his lips. Alex stood beside him and motioned with his hand for me to come over. I followed them through the long halls and past the tables where elegant-looking people dined casually, as if these were the type of places they went to every day. I seemed to fit in. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing clichés enthusiasm. With my expensive dress and exquisite jewelry, the man led us to a long table where all of my friends sat. He left before I got a chance to thank him, so I approached the table, Alex trailing behind me. Whoa! His head was brighter than my future. I whispered to Alex, who laughed in response. He was about to say something back, but he stopped abruptly when his eyes trailed over to the table. I followed his gaze and noticed that everyone was staring at me. Vivian's violet eyes scanned me from head to toe and nodded, as if she approved. Fox's eyebrows were slightly raised, but he looked away quickly when Vivian sharply cleared her throat. Rosalind looked like an animated Disney character with the enlightening smile she gave me. Rory's eyes wide and then she raised her eyebrows up and down. I grinned and took a seat next to Lucy, who seemed lost in thought. She sat up straighter when she realized I had sat down next to her, and wished me a happy birthday. I tried not to wince and pretended not to notice when her jaw visibly clenched when Alex took the seat to my left. I tried not to get lost in their thick tension and glanced at some of the guys from the pack who still stared at me. Gabriel's blue eyes glimmered ravenously when he saw me, and I heard Hunter next to him whisper, "Damn, where does she hide those legs?" I quickly looked away, as if I hadn't just heard that, and then continued thanking people for the birthday wishes. It was still hard to fathom that I had gone from being a loner at my old pack to being surrounded by people that came to celebrate me. Honestly, I wouldn't have wanted anything else for a birthday. When the dinner arrived a short while later, I had to stop myself from drooling. It looked absolutely wonderful. It did indeed taste extravagant, and I even stole a bit from Alex's plate, hoping no one would notice. I laughed along with the others when they saw what I did though. As everyone began talking about dessert as the menus were passed around, I noticed that Lucy had barely eaten and that Alex's green eyes were full of concern. My heart clenched. Was I the rift between them? Was this my fault? The words on the menu before me became a blur as I found myself deep in my thoughts. I felt horrible that they weren't having a good time, so I needed to distract them. I began to pester Alex about what dessert I should order, even though I'd already had my mind set on the chocolate lava cake. Once he got into a conversation with Gabriel, I turned to face Lucy, who was fidgeting with her necklace. "Is everything okay? "Lucy," I whispered as quietly as possible. Her head instantly bobbed up and she plastered a fake smile on. Yet her blue eyes were full of a mix of emotions. Her smile faltered when she realized what I just asked her. Well," she said hesitantly. Her eyes trailed away and she murmured a quick "never mind." It took all my strength to not sigh out loud. That really hurt. Did people not trust me yet? My heart sank. I had been through so much. It was hard at the beginning to fake a smile every day the way Lucy did. Although many people say I'm fine most of the time, they aren't. Most of the time. It doesn't get better. And I wasn't only talking about Don rejecting me. Because, hell, that was just a bump in my life. There were so many other things that had happened. If Lucy was faking a smile right in front of my face, I wasn't just going to sit there and do nothing. I knew exactly how she felt. And it wasn't a good feeling. But if she didn't want to trust me, then that was all right. "Why are you so quiet?" "Dest." I jumped in surprise, which made him chuckle. "Overthinking. Again. What a surprise." Alex laughed. "Maybe you should take a map with you the next time you visit your thoughts, eh?" I actually laughed back and rolled my eyes. Alex's jokes were so lame that they were funny. I was probably one of the few people who laughed at his jokes on a regular basis. I then remembered that there were people like Alex in the world. People like him that would make you laugh. Notice the small things about you. People like him that genuinely cared about you. He had really helped me grow as a person and slowly heal myself. And I was thankful for him. Dessert arrived and I eyed the pristine chocolate cake, topped with a dollop of whipped cream. I dug right into it, ignoring everyone's remarks around me. Typical destiny. Whoa, that's a big bite. In less than 5 minutes, the masterpiece was finished. After dessert, we shared hilarious birthday stories, and raucous laughter echoed in the building. We were about to get up, but Rosalind began singing out of the blue. "Happy birthday to you." Her voice sounded like honey, and many more people joined in, and I groaned, standing there awkwardly. I heard Fox's loud, jolly voice, Vivian's crisp and clear, Rory's voice which was hilariously off-key, and Alex's, soft and smooth. When they finished, everyone burst into cheers and laughter. I received an endless amount of hugs and thanked everyone for an amazing birthday. Little by little, people began shuffling out of the high-end restaurant, yelling the occasional happy 18th. Destiny. I beamed the whole time. Lucy was one of the few people to leave, so I quickly pulled her aside. "I noted they might not have been one of your good days, but I just want to thank you for being such a good friend otherwise. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." She finally smiled, and this time it was a real one. "Do you want a ride home?" Her eyes flitted to Alex, and I could see the flash of anger pass through them. She shook her head, then pulled me into a hug. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Destiny. Thanks for brightening up my year as well. She hugged me tighter. I really didn't know what was going on in her life, but I thought that she'd needed a hug like that for a while now. She let go, and strolled off in her cream-colored dress that complemented her electric blue hair. With a heavy sigh, I walked over to Alex, who was saying goodbye to one of the guys, Hunter. He caught sight of me and said happy birthday, taking one more loom at me before dashing off. I wish that I didn't blush so easily. I slumped into the nearest chair and groaned at my feet. "I'm 20 years old, and I still don't understand how you women wear those 6-inch heels," Alex retorted, with an empathetic look at my feet. "I'm still shorter than you," I grumbled. "Just take them off. They look uncomfortable as fuck." So, without hesitation, I slipped them off and almost kissed the ground when my bare feet touched the ground. After a few moments, I picked them up in my hand and held onto Alex's elbow for support. I ignored the waiter's stares at my bare feet, probably wondering what an uncultured swine like me was doing in their restaurant. When we got to the entrance, I put the heels back on and winced. I held onto Alex's arm and reluctantly walked back to his truck. Somehow we made it through the snow, and I sighed in happy relief when we sat in his warm truck. I noticed that all of my gifts were already in the back, probably Alex. Hey Dest. What? Happy birthday. Chapter 18, The Cries of a Broken Wolf. Dominic ran a hand through his midnight black hair and laughed melodiously. He gripped my hand as we ran through the forest and into an empty open field. I laid down next to him, ignoring the tall strands of grass dangling at my bare feet, although the night sky was full of stars. I gazed at him, his sharp cheekbones, his muscular arms, his cool grey eyes that sent a chill through me on the hot summer night. He turned to face me, his face close to mine. I could feel his breath on my neck as he whispered, Dest, wake up, wait. He just called me Dest. I suddenly woke up from the dream and rubbed my eyes. From what I could tell through my blurry vision, it was still dark outside. I put on my glasses to see Alex in my room, hovering before my bed. I was wrapped in my soft blanket and was ready to sock him in the face so I could go back to sleep. But I noticed the urgency in his eyes. I sat up slowly, ignoring the fact that I was in some hideous graphic t-shirt. He'd seen me in worse. To my agent extraordinaire, webnovel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. We don't have work today, I murmured, through a long yawn. Alex shook his head frantically. He seemed as if he was at a loss for words. Wait, how the hell did you even get in my room? Remembering I hadn't given him a key. Never mind that. Dest, Lucy's missing. Closing his eyes as if it weren't real, his mouth wavered. What do you mean? She's probably out for a run or something. At 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. I'm worried as fuck. Did she say anything to you at your party last week when you pulled her aside? His voice was rushed yet strained, portraying that he'd gotten no sleep. He was acting very unlike himself. He was always calm, composed, and relaxed. But this, it made me uneasy. I grabbed his arm and set him down on the edge of my bed. To my agent extraordinaire, webnovel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Just take a deep breath, I demanded. He simply put his head in his hands, whispering things to himself. Don't worry. I couldn't bring myself to finish my sentence. I couldn't promise him that she'd come back, the way my mom had done all of those years ago, placing a false and meaningless hope in my heart. I took a shuddered breath and focused on the situation right now. He was up again, pacing around my room, mumbling something like, it was all my fault. I wanted to get up and scream at him, tell him that nothing was his fault. Yet the moment I parted my lips open, the door closed and he was out of my room. I couldn't breathe. What had just happened? I knew what he was feeling like. I knew it all. What it felt like to be abandoned, over and over again. To never be good enough for your mate. Although it was for Anne, and the sun was far from rising. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. After what had happened, echoes of his shaky voice rippled through my mind. It sickened me to see Axe in this state. The same Alex who sang his heart out. The one who smiled at everyone he saw. The one who was my best friend. I felt useless. I hadn't even helped him. My mom didn't want me to be a wolf and I only disappointed her. My mate never saw me as someone to share his life with, and I ran away from him. My best friend needed me more than ever, yet I sat there silently. I was such a fucking coward. I couldn't stand up to my mom. I couldn't stay in my pack and be strong, but I could help the guy who turned my life around. So I got up and ran out of my room, hoping it wasn't too late. I ran swiftly through the dark hallways with high ceilings, my feet tapping on the cold marble floor. But when I finally made it to the back entrance, a still fear crept into my heart when I saw the yellow truck was gone and the absence of unbrushed light brown hair. If only I'd gone with him. I stood there motionless for a while, ignoring the frigid drafts of air that clawed at my bare skin. I waited for one of them to come back, the dynamic girl with the bright blue hair. or the fierce boy with the green eyes. I slowly sunk down by the door, leaning against it and closing my eyes. I hated this feeling. It was too familiar. All I could think of was my 7-year-old self waiting at a window for her to come back. I shook my head. Alex and Lucy were both fighters. One of them would come back. And although my selfish heart tugged towards one more than the other, I desperately hoped they would both be okay. 2 hours had passed and none of them showed up. I had returned to my room red-eyed at 6 a.m. Quiet and swift. Past the morning people who began breakfast in the kitchen. I closed the door behind me knowing damn well that I wouldn't get any sleep now. Every time I closed my eyes, Lucy's despairing eyes would appear or Alex's frantic face. It broke my heart to even imagine what they were going through. I didn't know what to do though, and it was stressing me out. I needed to clear my mind. Those 2 hours of waiting hadn't done me any good. Just revived memories that I'd thought were long gone somewhere in the folds of my mind. I tied up my hair into a messy ponytail and changed into a pair of leggings, a large dark red sweater. I crept out of my room and back to the back entrance. I wasn't going to wait this time though. I needed to get out of the pack house and momentarily forget about everything. Stepping through the fresh snow in my worn-out boots, I quickly shifted behind a thick pine tree and ruffled out my dark auburn fur and stretched out my limbs. I breathed in the scent of the forest a strong husky would smell. I felt my sensitive wolf ears perk up at each small sound, whether it was the snap of a twig or the soft rustle of branches. Taking a deep breath which came out like a growl, I opened my eyes wide and just ran. It was turbulent elegance, paws wildly trudging through the glistening snow, big eyes catching every falling leaf. But most of all, a sense of relief and calm coursing through my veins. I ran for minutes that felt like hours and damn. It felt good to just escape. Even when I felt my muscles were tightening in exhaustion and my ragged breath was growing more shallow by the second. The wind whipped swiftly through my fur, caressing my body. I held as I ran, as loud as I could to release every thought, every feeling, every ounce of pain that I'd been keeping in for the longest time. Let the goddamned world hear the cries of a broken wolf. When I felt my bones aching to their core, I began to trail home. I took my time. As I returned to the mansion, another wave of relief washed through me when I saw the bright yellow truck parked in the back. I trotted into my room with so much more calmness than I had this morning. Making sure my door was shut behind me, I shifted back and then went to take a long hot shower. As I dried my hair and changed into some comfortable clothes, I didn't realize it was almost 10. I had been in the snow-filled woods for more than 3 hours, and it was worth it. If only I could stay there forever. I mumbled to myself out of the blue. But then that reminded me of when I had isolated myself from everyone at my old pack 2 years ago. I'd stayed in the tranquil forest temporarily yet had totally abandoned my best friends and problems. I combed out the final tangle from my hair and swept it into a messy side braid. I decided that it was time to start running away from my problems and face the world. I would need to suck it up and accept the fact that life wasn't going to be sunshine and rainbows 24/7. A grumble from my stomach put a halt to my plans though. If I wanted to accomplish things, I'd have to do it with a full stomach. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I strolled into the kitchen, shivering slightly at the white marble against my feet. I suddenly stopped when I saw a tall, lean figure in a beige coat, hunched over a steaming cup of black coffee. My appetite disappeared as the images of a terrified and vulnerable Alex flashed into my mind. I would give him space, not only for his sake, but mine as well. After this morning, when he came to me for help and I failed to reassure him because I was too caught in my own trauma, I didn't think I'd have the guts to face him today. An idea sprang into my mind. And no, it wouldn't solve either of our problems, but it would definitely make his life easier. As I dashed up to his room on the 3rd floor and opened his door, the familiar smell of vanilla and mint enveloped me. I groaned when I saw his queen bed, perfectly made, with the soft grey blanket and light ocean blue pillows that rested against the massive headboard. It was such a typical thing to see in Alex's room, but what wasn't typical was the clothes. As I walked over to pull them apart and let the light stream in, I noticed that there was a thin film of dust on them, meaning he hadn't opened them in a while. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I made my way to his organized desk and easily found the truck's keys and found the clipboard with the long list. There were more deliveries than usual, but I was determined to get as many as I could done today. Before I left the room though, my eyes caught sight of the picture frame that held the photo of him and Lucy in it. But this time, it was face down. After driving around for a couple of hours, more than half of the packed supplies were delivered. I knew I wouldn't be able to get any more done as my stomach began hurting due to the lack of food. I think this was the first time that I'd gone without breakfast for a long time. I parked the truck in front of the coffee shop and stilled. Alex would probably be in there, but my stomach growled and the smell of coffee and cinnamon was enough to lure me out of the truck and into the cozy CAF. A few moments later, I stood in line, observing the architectural design of the shop. It had high wooden beams on the tall ceilings, in a modern way with old charm. "Hi, how may I take your order?" I was about to recite my long list, but another voice interrupted. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Reg. Motherfucking shit. Meeting his green eyes. "Oh hey, what a coincidence seeing you here." I chuckled half-throatedly, but Alex's face showed no hint of amusement. "Back table, to the left. Come on," he demanded, stepping out behind the counter. I followed him, ignoring the confused glances from the other customers in line. As I shuffled into the booth and sat across from him, I faced him and almost winced. He looked like he hadn't slept. "So, care to tell me where you stole my truck?" he inquired. "Look, I was just getting some work done," I replied, not wanting to make eye contact. How could properly explain what I was doing without bringing up this morning's events? "It's Monday. Guest. We don't have work." "Now really? What were you doing?" I wasn't surprised at the soft tone of his voice, and as I met his eyes that were equally as gentle, it totally threw me off. "I felt bad that I couldn't help you this morning, so I thought I could get this week's back duties done so you could." "I don't know." "Relax," I confessed, resting my head in my hand. "Who says I need to relax?" "I don't know. Ask your hair that." I shot back, frustrated with the stubborn man. "My hair? What does that have to do with anything?" Furrowing his eyebrows, looking at me as if I was crazy. "It has to do with everything. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. It looks like you haven't brushed it in decades. When was the last time you even got proper sleep?" His sharp jaw clenched. "We shouldn't be having this conversation right now, especially here." "I don't care. I'm only scolding you because you're my best friend. And unfortunately, I care a lot about you. What happened to the cheerful idiot who wears horrifying sweaters from his grandmother?" I retorted. "And honestly, Alex, I'm not only talking about this morning, but the last few weeks as well. You haven't been yourself. So please, let me take care of work this week. You go relax." I won't even get one single scratch on the truck. I sat there waiting for his reply, but he just stood up. I wasn't letting him go until he agreed to this, though. I stood up after him but froze when he pulled me into a hug. "Thanks, Dest. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." I hugged him back, smiling. He let go and stalked to the counter, coming back with a brown paper bag and cup of coffee. Before I took them, I stood up on my tiptoes and smoothed out his light brown tourslace. He winked at me as I left the coffee shop, sitting in the truck once again. I felt like things were good between us again. I took a long-needed sip of the coffee and then grimaced when I realized it was black coffee, just the way Alex drank it. On the cup it read fetus and sprawled handwriting. It took all of my strength to pull out of the parking lot instead of going back in the coffee shop and punching the guy across his pretty face. Chapter 19. I'm on a prank show. The week continued and I woke up extra early every morning to finish the deliveries. On some of the days Alex tagged along too, so I could drop him off for his shifts at the coffee shop. Although I didn't tell him, it made me glad to see that he looked much more well-rested and refreshed than he had in a while now. I still wondered why the alpha was so harsh towards him sometimes. On Saturday morning I woke up and immediately checked the clipboard only to see that I'd finished all of the deliveries. Finally, I'd get to sleep in today. I snuggled back into my covers and closed my eyes in satisfaction. Sleep was such a beautiful thing. Honestly, the moon goddess should have just mated me to my bed. I'm sure that would have turned out to be the perfect relationship. Just as I was about to doze off back to sleep, there was abrupt knocking at my door. I groaned and pulled my blanket over my head. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm, and the deliveries. Go away, I called out, but I stilled when I heard the Luna's voice. Actually, Destiny. Luna Arcadia. I dashed out of my bed, almost tripping to get to the door. I opened it to see Arcadia with Kate clutching onto her hand, with her brown Bambi, like eyes looking up at me. "I'm so sorry, Luna," I gushed, trying to compose myself. She smiled warmly. "No, it's okay, Destiny. Frankly, I'm the one who should be apologizing that I've woken you up. I have an appointment to get to and I needed someone to take care of Kate for the morning." I eyed the Luna's round stomach, fascinated by the fact that there was a small human growing in there. I nodded enthusiastically at the Luna. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. It would be my pleasure, I responded. Luna Arcadia thanked me and then kissed Kate goodbye. I held on to her hand and then closed the door. "Come on, let's go get some breakfast," I said to her. "Can I have waffles?" With an angelic smile. "You can have 100, I replied with a wink. It was hard not to smile when her face lit up, then contorted into confusion. Dest why? I don't think I can eat that many. Oh God, I needed a freezer for my melting heart. She just called me Dest why and that was precious. I was about to leave my room with her, but then my bladder decided it needed to explode. In other words, I had to pee. Wait, who's going to watch Kate? I could only think of one person, so I grabbed my phone and dialed Alex's number. "Come to my room, quick," I whispered, prancing around. Kate giggled. "What the fuck, why?" His voice was husky and deeper than usual. "Oh shit." I'd woken him up. "Hurry," was all I said before ending the call. I was hoping that idiot would hurry the hell up before I wet myself in front of a 3-year-old. A couple seconds later, a sleepy Alexander appeared, looking concerned. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. "Watch her," I said, pointing at Kate. "I need to pee." I closed the bathroom door and calmed the hell down. After washing my hands, I brushed my teeth and straightened my large tee, shirt atop my black tights. I stepped back into my room to find Alex sitting against the headboard with Kate in his lap. "Thanks so much," I breathed, scooping Kate into my arms. "Yeah, no problem. Just call me any time to run down 3 flights of stairs while I'm half asleep just so you can pee," he replied sarcastically. "Hell, I'm not just going to leave this poor child alone. You never know what could happen." To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. "Okay, well, I have no clue what you're doing with the Alpha's child, but I'm going back to sleep." He yawned. He sprawled across my bed, which looked noticeably smaller. He shrugged my blanket on and then closed his eyes. "Are we gonna eat waffles now?" Kate piped up. I nodded. "What about owls, Anda?" Peering her head over my shoulder, I closed the door behind me, walking to the kitchen. Alexander is an ugly troll who drinks black poison, I replied, setting her down on the kitchen sofa. Chef Alice was there, and after I asked her to make waffles, I sat down beside Kate, admiring her bouncy red curls. We took our time enjoying the fresh blueberry waffles, and then had a lengthy discussion on which My Little Pony character was the best. It was quite scary how this little girl could binge-watch a whole show faster than me. In the middle of the third consecutive episode, Kate let out a loud and high-pitched scream. In an instant, I was up and ready. My claws were itching to come out and beat the crap out of someone. Kate's pudgy finger trembled as she pointed at the door and I got ready to lunge. I sighed though, when I just saw Alex at the entrance of the large kitchen area. "Geez, what's your problem?" Alex asked, furrowing his brows at me. "I don't know. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm," I replied, feeling my cheeks heat up. I sighed and sat back down beside Kate and brushed the curls out of eyes. "Alexander is gonna turn into a troll," she whimpered, clutching onto my arm. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm," who sat at one of the stools, almost spat out his coffee. "Go away," Kate shrieked. "Dest, what did you even tell her?" Alex leaned in his chair, crossing his arms. I stifled a laugh and watched as Kate shuffled out beside me and glanced at Alex. "Alexander, why are you drinking black poison?" Kate asked, eyeing his blue mug. Alex suddenly stood up with his coffee and then plopped down next to me on the sofa. His towering frame made Kate seem even smaller than she already was. "You told the Alpha's daughter that I'm a troll who drinks poison," Alex sputtered. I nodded. "Real mature. Destiny." The way he rolled out my name slow and sarcastic made me laugh. "Go brush your hair," I replied, fiddling a strand of his soft brown hair between my fingers. "Ugh, not this again," he mumbled, proceeding to take a sip of his hot coffee. I eyed Kate, who was intently watching her 5th episode of My Little Pony. It was funny how quickly she'd forgotten the whole Alexander as a troll thing. I stretched out my legs and yawned. I had been so excited to sleep in today, but I guess life wouldn't let me. Alex wordlessly handed me his mug and I took a long sip of the coffee. I cringed at the bitterness but took another sip until it was almost gone. "I told you black coffee's head good," Alex muttered. He rolled his eyes as I finished the last drop. "It's actually quite disgusting. I only drink it so I can finish it and piss you off. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "Wow, this is why I hate you," was all he said, before leaning his head against mine. Around an hour later, I got a text from Rosalind telling me to meet her in her room. Luckily though, a few minutes later Alpha Jace and Luna Arcadia arrived. I hope she wasn't too much trouble. "Destiny," Luna Arcadia exclaimed. "No, Kate is such a sweetheart." I smiled at the child, nestled in her mother's arms once again, sleeping soundly. I heard Alexander helped as well. She raised her eyebrows in a way that I didn't quite understand. "Yeah." Kate mentioned that he was sleeping in your bed. She inquired. "Wait, no. It's not like that. I swear. Kate just meant that," I fumbled. "Oh my God. Why is my life so awkward?" "I understand. Sorry if I misunderstood Kate's story. Anyways, I have a meeting to get to. Once again, thank you so much, Destiny." And so she left me there near the staircase, blushing a shade of red darker than her lipstick. What exactly had Kate told her? I made my way around the hallway to Rosalind's room, which was connected to mine. After knocking, I entered it to see her perched on the edge of her bed, patiently looking perfect as usual. She blinked when she saw me, then cleared her throat and began to speak. "Hey Destiny, I wanted to talk to you about Alexander." I tried not to look surprised, but failed, noticing that she studied my face intently. I sat on the bed beside her, daring not to break the silence with my unspoken words. Well, today, I was working for the Alpha. But the thing is, about Lucy. Thumbing the edge of her lavender-colored dress, she disappeared sometime last week and the Alpha was wondering if she was going to come back. A cold and easy feeling swept through me, despite the heater in room. So I contacted a lot of the close-by packs and one of them found her. Her brown eyes were dark. Destiny. She's not even in the country and she's not coming back. My mouth hung open. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I always knew that Lucy was an adventurous and reckless person. But this was crazy, but that wasn't the most important thing that struck me. Did anyone tell Alex yet? I asked quickly, the cold within me spreading softly. Rosalind slowly shook her head. That's why I needed to tell you. I'm not trying to dump this all on you, and leaving you to tell him, because Alpha Jace will. Yet I figured that since you're the closest person to him than all of us, then you could make sure he's okay. I know how much she meant to him and I heard he didn't handle it well when she disappeared in the first place. I honestly don't know what's going to happen when he finds this out now. Rosal sighed. Even though I was freaking out on the inside, I gave her a warm, reassuring smile and thanked her. After I left, I knew that I needed to find Alex right away. I stalked out of the room and was about to run to the 3rd floor to his room, but stopped instantly when I heard his voice. I quickly hid behind the giant staircase next to my room. Please fucking tell me this is a joke. Bring out the goddamn cameras and tell me I'm on a prank show. The bitter and satirical voice style was normally calm, sent an easy chills through my spine. Alex was really mad. Then, the aura of power drenched the air. Alexander, you're being irrational. Alpha Jace sneered. Although I couldn't exactly see the two behind the stairwell, I could tell that the Alpha was trying not to yell. Give me a brick. Alex exhaled. We're giving away her room because new and future members will need it. Every single day I'm getting requests from other wolves to join our pack, but I have to decline because of the shortage of rooms. I can't continue saying no because Lucy's not coming back. Her room could easily fit into mated wolves. Alpha Jace roared. But clearly, that was the wrong thing to say. You build a huge fucking mansion and have a shortage of rooms. What the hell do you do with all your money? Waste it on useless shit like new cars. My eyes widened at the way Alex spoke. I'd never heard him that angry, nor would I have imagined him talking that way to such an authoritative figure. You listen up. Someone with your rank shouldn't be talking to me like that. You're lucky I'd let you stay all these years. But Lucy's room should be emptied by next week. Or else her room won't be the only vacant one. Alexander. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Noban. Thoughts to your unfading patience, enthusiasm. Alex snarled. I ducked, seeing Alex's brown hair fly past me and up the stairs. I couldn't believe he had it in him to talk that way. It amazed me. Everything that I'd just heard was absolutely exhilarating. As much as I wanted to run after Alex and comfort him, I didn't think he'd want to see me now, considering how angry he was. Once the Alpha left, muttering words under his breath, I crept back into my room, not knowing what to do. So I shifted and went outside for a run in the cold, harsh weather. I ran until the sky became dark and trotted back to the mansion, thankful for my coat of warm fur. While I ran, I had sorted out my thoughts and decided that I'd talk to Alex. I didn't feel like shifting, so I ran effortlessly up the 3 flights of stairs and into Alex's room. But when I couldn't sniff out his scent, I realized he wasn't there. My heart began beating nervously at the thought of Alex driving away to look for Lucy, and him not coming back either. Yet I breathed out a sigh of relief when I saw his parked yellow truck through the window. Eyeing the rumpled clothes on the ground, I realized that he had shifted and went out. Not to the forest, though, as I'd just been there. I lingered around for a few more minutes and then went back to my room to get some sleep. I shifted back and threw on an oversized sweatshirt. I nestled into my bed and let sleep take over me. In the middle of the night, with the mansion's loud silence creeping through the halls, my phone rang. I squinted at my clock, which read 12:56. Who the hell was calling now? After the 3rd ring, I finally picked up. Hello, I answered, midway through a yawn. Dest? I need you, the raspy voice whispered. I sat up fast in my bed and clutched onto the phone. To my agent extraordinaire, Mylan Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. What's going on? Chapter 20, You Can't Sleep in Here. FUC Knuckle. His voice was deep, tired, but downright miserable. He had texted me the address and now I was driving there as fast as I could. I was freaking out, wondering if he was okay. No, of course he isn't. Shuddering at the sound of his voice when he'd called me. When I stopped at the address, I let out a deep breath. I sat there in confusion though. What the hell was Alex doing at a bar on the other side of town well past midnight? It must have been because he had found out about Lucy. I unlocked the truck's door instantly when my tired eyes caught sight of a tall frame, stumbling a familiar long brown coat. Alex staggered to the passenger seat and somehow managed to get in. He blinked at me a few times and then flashed me a pearly white smile. With a cheesy wink. He reeked of alcohol. Shit. Holy motherfucking shit. Alex is drunk. It was hard to believe that the mature, cool, and sweet Alex was intoxicated so heavily. But then again, he was 21 years old. Not some 18-year-old like me. Yet it still felt weird while I started the truck's engine as he hummed a tune to himself. Swaying in the seat, he started to twirl a strand of my hair in his slender fingers. What the hell would I possibly say to a drunk Alex? Your hair is really soft. Dest. H, have you been using my shampoo? I peered over at him and he genuinely looked confused as he inspected that strand of hair. I held back a laugh and replied, No, I have not been using your shampoo. Are you sure? Yeah. The drunk Alex didn't know what silence meant. Contrary to his typical self, he was chatty and clearly acting like an idiot, which I thought was downright hilarious. I then decided to take the longer way home to get the most out of this once-in-a-lifetime situation. So where are we going? Alex piped up, running a hand through his silky locks. Don't be an idiot. To my agent extraordinaire, Mylan Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I chuckled. We stopped at a red light and I cocked my head to look at him. He was smiling for no apparent reason, which brought out his dimples. His forest green eyes were alive. He turned to look at me too and seemed to be studying me. Luckily, the green light flashed and I concentrated my stare back on the road again. He was still staring though. I could see from the corner of my eye that he was doing nothing to hide it. Hey Destin, if I told you a secret, would you tell the whole world? He murmured softly. I furrowed my eyebrows. I guess it depends on what it is. I'm losing my mind. 'Cause I think that I just fell in love with you. Girl, I almost didn't stop the car at the next red light. Out of nowhere, my heart started hammering wildly. Did he really just say that? He's drunk. I reminded myself. He's drunk. Wait a second. I muttered. Were you singing the lyrics to I Will? I realized. My heart stopped beating like crazy, but another part of me was slightly disappointed. What the hell? You know, when I found out Lucy ditched me and was never gonna come back, I was upset. Alex drawled on, but then I remembered there was still another girl I love. I wanted to know who this girl was. I was scared yet intrigued and I had no clue why. What's her name? Keeping my eyes trained on the empty snow-filled road ahead of us, he began to chuckle. Shouldn't you know your own name by now? A chill ran through my spine. My grasp on the steering wheel tightened, and it took every ounce of strength in me to not look at Alex, to see whether he was serious or not. But by the way he spoke, I knew that he was. Once again, my abnormal heartbeat sped up, and I couldn't remember the last time someone had that affect on me. You're like, really pretty. You know that. Well, you're hella clumsy, but it's really cute. Alex rambled. Every word he said made my heart beat louder. I needed to get home right now before I crashed the vehicle. You really light up my whole day, especially when you lean your head on my shoulder. It's a nice feeling. Dest. It was hard to stay concentrated when he was saying all these things to me. Alexander, my best friend who is 3 years older than me, was saying these things to me. I hated to admit it, but a part of me enjoyed those rare words. Although it took 14 minutes to get home, it felt like 15 years. When I finally parked the car at the back entrance of the marble mansion, I unbuckled my seatbelt and bolted out of the yellow truck as fast as I could. My ferocious heartbeat was loud enough to awake the whole pack. "Dest, help me," Alex groaned, leaning against the truck. I was scared to approach him, but went anyways. He gripped my elbow and stumbled. I didn't dare say anything. I forcefully opened the back door of the mansion and whispered for Alex to shut the hell up. Fortunately, I dragged him in and then stopped at the staircase next to my room to head up to the 3rd floor. "I see, can't," Alex sighed, leaning on my shoulder. I ignored how close he was. "Come on, you idiot. You need to get to your own goddamn room," I furiously whispered, urging him to get on the stairs. Instead, though, he leered toward my room and opened the door, dragging me along with him. The door behind us shut. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm," I yelled. "This is my room. You refuse knuckle. I don't care," he whimpered, sprawling across my bed, closing his eyes. "You can't sleep in here. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "You let me sleep in here yesterday morning," he exclaimed, sitting upright, looking at me. But you're leaning against the wall hopelessly. What was I going to do? "But I'm what?" he inquired. Not a moment too soon. He was standing upright in front of me, his green eyes dark and his smile dangerous. Inches away from my face, he whispered in my ear, "But I'm drunk. Dest, are you afraid? Afraid of kissing you?" I mentally yelled. But why was he so close? My throat was dry. I couldn't even speak. "It's to go to sleep," I muttered quietly. I swallowed as he brought his lips to my ear, ignoring what I'd said. His breath tickled my neck as my breathing became unnaturally shallow. "Remember that night on your birthday? Dest, you looked hot as hell in that dress. And fuck, it was hard to keep my hands off you." My eyes widened. I couldn't believe what he was saying. He slipped a hand around my waist, trapping me. I didn't even try to do anything to even escape. There would be no point. He brought me closer to him. "You're drunk. You don't know what you're saying," I managed to choke out. I didn't want him to leave. I wanted him to pull me in even closer. But this wasn't right. I couldn't let him make a careless choice whilst he was drunk. That wasn't fair for him. He craned his face right into mine and stared intensely into my eyes. I couldn't think straight when his lips were just centimeters away from mine. Alex had never been this close, nevertheless said anything like this. So why the hell did I want more? He doesn't mean any of this, I told myself. He's drunk. He would never see me this way. He ran a hand through my hair and then brought his lips to my neck. He'd exploded through me. "You want more?" He crooned softly at the hollow of my neck. "Yes," I replied. But then all of a sudden, guilt washed through me. What if half of this shit was only happening because he was full of alcohol? He probably didn't even see me this way. I tore him off of me. "Gee, go to sleep," I whispered, breaking the eye contact for what after seemed like an eternity. This time, he nodded, then stumbled over to my bed and laid down. I still stood at the wall, not quite processing everything that happened. As soon as I heard his faint and shallow breaths, enthusiasm indicating that he was well asleep, I crumpled to the ground and stifled a sob, clutching my head in my hands. Along with the guilt, hurt flooded through me, and the maple yanked painfully inside of me, reminding me that Alex was never mine to begin with, reminding me that Alex and I would never be together. I thought back to all of our memories: the day we drove the train together, the afternoon we skated on Christmas, to the night he'd zipped up my dress, And at that point tears were streaming down my face. What had I done? I would never be able to wake up next to his sleepy face or kiss him sensually in his truck or simply just hold his hand at the coffee shop. I would never get to lovingly stroke his brown hair or go up my tiptoes to kiss his cheek. And as much as I wished it weren't true, I was in love with Alex. The tears fell harder. I was fucking in love with Alexander North. And he would never be mine. We were both mated to other people. Our hearts already chained to theirs. I'd heard many stories of the moon goddess not letting these forbidden relationships work out. From erasing the mating marks to giving heavy doses of pain. There was initially nothing I could do. But wear my brave mask and hold it all in. My mind kept wandering back to this night's events, puzzling my emotions even more. Was Alex confessing his true feelings for me, or was he just a drunk to say anything normal? My head began to hurt. Goosebumps trailed along my skin. Just the thought of him being that close to me. I tried not to think about what it would be like to be Alex's mate. I didn't even know when I'd fallen in love with him. The fact that I was destined to be with someone else hid these feelings this whole time. I remembered the last time I got my hopes up about Dom. It ended up crushing me. What if Lucy came back? What if I was overthinking everything? I closed my eyes and let the darkness wash away the thoughts. I lifted my head up and gazed at Alex sleeping soundly on my bed, looking so innocent and vulnerable. There was no way in hell I was going to fall asleep tonight with him being right there. There was no way I could ever make eye contact with him without falling in love with him over and over again. I crawled over to my bedside table and rummaged around in my drawer. I washed down a sleeping pill with water and hoped that it would not only let me sleep for the night, but erase everything from my mind forever. Chapter 21. Hungry, tired, and utterly hopeless. When my eyes fluttered open, I caught a blurry glimpse of Alex hovering over me with a concerned look on his sleepy face. His bedhead hair was sticking up all over the place and I tried not to smile. Suddenly, he perched to the edge of the bed. Groaning, I sat up instantly, reaching for my glasses while last night's events came crashing down on me. Fuck. I don't think I can remember the last time that I was this hungover. Alex sighed. His eyes closed. I didn't say anything as I found a Tylenol pill and a half-drunken water bottle in my bedside drawer. I tossed it to him, and he let out a sound that probably meant thank you. I watched him drain the water bottle in a matter of seconds, and I especially watched the drop of water that trickled down his defined jawline. I caught myself before he saw me and turned my head away. I was beginning to notice the small things. It was just like Dominic all over again, except this time I wouldn't let myself get hurt. I was smarter than that. I realized I was on my bed and then almost died right there. That meant that somewhere in the night, Alex had lifted me onto it. Even while hungover, the guy was responsible. A few seconds of silence hung around in the air before he spoke. How drunk was I last night? He asked the question as if he were dreading the answer. Wasted, I murmured, trying to keep my voice as steady and normal as possible. Sorry you had to pick me up in the middle of the night, he mumbled. It struck me that he was embarrassed, but THA meant that he remembered what happened last night. Right. Did I do anything stupid last night? He piped up. I blinked, my heart rate accelerating. Wait, so you don't remember? Sorry, Dest. My head is killing me and everything is kind of a blur. Except for the fact that you practically made me want to kiss you. Nothing happened. Nothing at all. Alexander North. I thought bitterly. I was contemplating if I should tell him the truth. If he really didn't remember last night's events. That meant he was too drunk to say anything he actually meant. But what if I told him? That would make things awkward. I didn't even understand what I was to him and I didn't want to ruin this valuable friendship just by saying one sentence about yesterday. Stop overthinking whatever you're thinking. Dest. Tell me the truth. Did I actually do some dumb shit last night? He repeated. He was right. I was overthinking, just like I had with Dawn, and I'd ended up screwing everything up. Now you were kind of loopy. I just fell asleep on my bed when we got home. I lied, clutching my blanket in my hand so hard. He let out a sigh of relief which felt like a knife puncturing through my heart. So why were you on the ground when I this morning? He furrowed his brows at me, and I sheepishly stared back at the oblivious emerald eyes that had been so dangerous last night. Oh, this is kind of embarrassing, but I was on my period and the cramps were really bad. So I just sprawled on the floor because that was the only comfortable position. I explained, feeling like an idiot. Dest, you should have told me. Do you want me to go out and get some like pads or tam, Alex? Just shut up. I quickly hissed. I'm fine. Just go and eat something. I'm going back to sleep. He chuckled and then walked over and ruffled my hair, and goosebumps trailed over my arms at his touch. Before he left, thanks as usual, Dest, with a soft smile. It took everything inside of me to not run after him. He wasn't mine, and I was okay, was what I told myself. And so it took all of my willpower to not break down in front of Alex or in front of anyone in that case. It was hard not to stare at him while he drove, or smile at the thought of him. Although I was acting like a total creep, my mind was just all over the place right now. Every time I was alone with Alex, whether it was in the kitchen in the early hours or in his truck, breezing past packs, I struggled to act normal. On some days I was so close to saying fuck this and kiss his tempting lips, while other days I wanted to run away as far as possible as I could from him. Obviously, I couldn't really do any of those things. The worst days though were when my mind decided to think back to Dominic. As much as I scolded myself that I was done thinking about him, I still wandered off back to that crevice full of our memories together in my head. I often found myself wondering if he had a mate or a new best friend by now, even though I didn't care that he never saw me as a love interest. I hated to let go of such a big part of my life. It was hard to let go of a childhood friend who was literally one of the only people who didn't choose to abandon me. But nothing gold can stay. I silently thanked him though. As if it weren't for him rejecting me, there would be a slim chance that I'd ever get to meet Alex. I thought what it would have been like if Dom decided to accept me and we became more than friends. What would have happened if I bumped into Alex then? Probably nothing. I never would have befriended that whole bookish, handsome dork, nevertheless falling in love with him. Thus, in a way, I was grateful for Dom. My heart still lurched at his name, but not as much as before. Shivers still went down my spine with thoughts of him as my mate, but those thoughts were drowned out with Alex's presence. I loved Dom, and hell, I still did, but I wasn't in love with him. I was just designed to feel that way. I had found out what it really meant to fall in love with someone without knowing you would. It was cliché to say that what Alex and I had was true love, but it was realistic to say that we'd never end up together simply because we weren't bonded together by a mate link. Even if he tried to mark me, the chances that the mark and bond would actually last would be zero. So I didn't talk to Alex as much as we used to, and I avoided him whenever I could. I told myself repeatedly that in the end, it wouldn't hurt us. But in this moment, it fucking hurt like a bitch. Hello, Destiny, Alice yelled in my ear. I jumped and then blushed a deep red. Chocha, like me to make for you? A coffee and toast please. Thanks, I replied, sinking back into the stool. Alice furrowed her brows. Her bright blue eyes were full of confusion. Sweet pea, you've really lowered your appetite, she mumbled. I didn't know what to say. Everything tasted so bland now. A few minutes later she handed me the toast and black coffee. I gave her a side smile and then went for the coffee. That boy's got ya hooked onto that coffee to now. As she laughed heartily, hooked onto his heart too. After finishing my so-called breakfast and then chatting with Vivian for a bit, I went down to the office as usual to begin working. Nothing like a good 8 hours of staring into a cold monitor and replying to emails. In all honesty though, the extra work that I'd been loading and had kept my mind off of things for the past few weeks. Sometimes Alex would hang around downstairs to talk to the others and he would notice that I'd be too caught up in my work to say hi. So naturally he didn't bother me. I felt like shit for doing this to him, for seeing the slight hurt in his eyes every time I avoided him. It was killing me softly, but I just wanted him to think about another girl. I told myself that he'd eventually find a smart and mature girl he'd fall in love with. Anyone but a broken girl with issues. By 8 p.m., My stomach was grumbling and I had to take off my glasses and close my eye. I was hungry, tired, and utterly hopeless. I yawned and stuck my glasses back on and tried my best to concentrate on the screen. But a few minutes later, the delicious smell of fresh pasta flounced into my nose. I closed my eyes again. Was I so tired that I was beginning to imagine things? Wait, no. You couldn't imagine smells. Could you? Was there such a thing as your nose having hallucinations? Yes, it's real. Now eat up before it gets cold. Startled, I turned my spin in my chair and smiled. I didn't know what it was exactly that made me smile, the plate of pasta on my desk, or Alex's dimpled, cooked smile. It was probably both. I didn't even say anything as I dug into the pasta right away, enjoying the saltiness contrasting with the sweet garlic Alfredo sauce which melted perfectly in my mouth. Who needed a man when this existed? Alex pulled up another spin and white chair next to mine and rested his chin on his elbow, which was threateningly close to me. It's been weeks since you last ate like that. And then gestured a hand at the smear of Alfredo sauce by my mouth. I quickly grabbed a napkin out of my desk and wiped off my face. I can't believe you noticed. I admitted, pushing the empty plate to the side. Noticed what? The abundance of sauce on your face or your abnormal lack of eating nowadays? He chortled. Both, I guess, I replied, resting my head in my hands. I didn't want to look at his face after not properly talking for a while. Guessed? Seriously. His voice was suddenly soft and quiet, but I couldn't help but look at him. What's going on? He looked so sincere and worried as he studied my face in concern. I wanted to pour my heart out to him. Tell him how my wolf inside the comfort of Dom, yet how my heart wanted him. How I felt homesick but still dreaded the thought of returning. How I felt like I'd lost everything I'd ever had. But here I was, sitting in a marble mansion. Nothing's wrong. It's just that. I struggled to come up with a remotely real excuse. I felt so embarrassed. It's nothing. His green eyes flashed in disappointment and I saw his jaw clench ever so slightly. He let out a noticeable sigh. He and I both knew it wasn't just nothing I had let him down. Again, after weeks of him trying to talk to me, I had blocked our connection. So what brought you here to my office? Just wanting to forget about the last 5 minutes. I needed to make it up to you because you helped me out that night. I was drunk as hell. And I felt like I owed you something. So I thought you'd want some pasta I made today. He explained. You can cook. I nearly fell off of my chair. Don't expect me to speak Italian or have some hot Spanish accent. He laughed, which sounded like pure music to my ears. My brother was the one who taught me how to cook. I cocked my head to the side. Hold up. Alexander North has a brother. I questioned. And here I thought Alex was a lone wolf. He'd never mentioned his family or even having one. I guess it was fair, considering the fact that I'd barely spoken about my own family as well. He's dead, Alex replied, playing with the hem of his red flannel. I tried to keep my mouth shut. I'm sorry, I sputtered. What happened? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. His green eyes were full of grief and vulnerability, but they became hard. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. It's nothing, he replied curtly. I sat there, agape. That really stung, but I deserved it. I mean, I had just done the same thing to him about 10 minutes ago when he'd asked me what was wrong. He wordlessly stood up and grabbed the plate. He looked away from my eyes and then walked away. I wanted to chase after him and apologize, but he probably had enough of my bullshit to last him an entire lifetime. Besides, there were so many things I wanted to do, but they were just out of reach.